Good morning, everybody. We're so glad to have you here as part 2 of a series dedicated to deepening our understanding of youth and issues around mental health. And I don't know about you. You may know Scott and Julie, but this is my first time meeting them, and I've heard so many wonderful things about Garrett's place. So we're really lucky to have them here. So just a brief introduction. They are both the co-founders and directors of Garrett Space. Scott was a practicing attorney and the head counsel for Masco Corporation. Julie's a well-known journalist. Since 1994, has done a lot of wonderful articles and also teaches about environment and scientific writing. They have created a very special place in honor of their son, and we're so fortunate to live in the area where what they're doing is infecting the whole town. So please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. And first I want to thank, sorry, can you hear me okay? No? Hello? Yes? No? Okay. I'll try to talk. I mean, it's hard, but. Yeah.
It's on.
Oops. So welcome everyone, and you hear me now? Great. So I first want to thank Reverend Melissa for inviting Julie and me here and our team today to speak to all of you regarding our suicide prevention nonprofit Garrett Space. And thanks to all of you for coming here. So I see a lot of friendly faces here. I'm just curious, how many of you are familiar with Garrett Space and the work that we're doing in our community? Oh, a good number of you, great. So we're going to start things off with a brief exercise from Marley Spicer Schneider. Marley is our program development specialist and one of our amazing group facilitators at Garrett Space.
Thank you. Good morning, folks. Thanks for being here. I'm going to let everybody sit down. And I just want to offer, since I now know that this is being live streamed and going to be on YouTube, that wherever you are, this little exercise I'm going to offer, please feel free to try. I'll just start by saying that at our groups at Garrett Space, we really try to offer tools for skill building to cope the inevitable ups and downs of life. And in offering those, we also try to be clear that not every tool is going to work for everyone all the time. And so I'm saying that to all of you to empower you to engage with this however you like, and also to recognize that that's sort of part of our work is offering an abundance of skills and an abundance of tools so all of our participants can take what really feeds them and put it in their pocket and move through the world with their own toolbox. So this could maybe enter into your toolbox if you like. I'm going to pull up my little script here so I don't forget anything important. And I'll just offer that even if you do not struggle with depression or anxiety, I think that everyone as a human can understand that sometimes it's hard to be in the current moment, right? Our mind can get pulled to the past, maybe like rehashing, oh my gosh, why did I say that? Or, having some anxiety about the future. And so one of the tools that we talk a lot about is grounding. And what I mean by that really is finding tools to bring you back to your physical body in this moment, the people that are around you, the space that you're in. And just to be clear, it's totally human to have your brain pulled, to the past and to the future, and that's not a thing that you need to feel at all bad about. But I think it's so hard sometimes to just cultivate a presence in the now, and that's something we try to practice in our groups. So with that in mind, let's just sit up a little taller if you're comfortable doing so. And if also, this is all based on your comfort, but if both feet can comfortably sit on the floor, let's do that. And throughout this, I'll offer times to close your eyes, which if closing your eyes is not comfortable for you, then my alternate offer would be to just sort of steady your gaze on something. Just kind of look straight ahead and keep the eyes steady. And that can be calming to the mind as well if the closing of the eyes feels less comfortable. So let's close the eyes momentarily if that is an option that works for you today. And we're just going to take a couple deep breaths together. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. Now, when you open your eyes in a moment, I'm going to give you maybe 30 seconds to sort of look around the room and find something to look at, anything. So let's open our eyes now and just take a little moment to gaze around. Maybe you catch someone else's eye, you're welcome to give them a smile. And then when you land on an object of any sort, take a second to be with that object. And as you consider your chosen object, just sort of notice first the colors. Color or colors that you're looking at. The shape of whatever you're gazing at. You might be able to perceive of its texture or weight. So even though you're looking at something and not feeling it, just maybe consider what it would be like if you were to engage with it with the sense of touch. You can, of course, notice its size. And as you gaze a little longer, you might notice that it brings something up for you. Maybe it reminds you of someone or something or an event. Let's just take one more breath, gazing at our chosen object now. Now I'll offer that you close your eyes again if that's comfortable. So we're removing the sense of sight for a moment and tuning into the sounds you hear. So this is a little tricky because I'm talking to you, so you probably hear that most prominently. So I'm going to take a little pause with my voice and just give you a chance to notice the other sounds that perhaps rise to the surface. Do you know what the sound is that you're hearing? Noticing if it feels close or far away. And you might start to notice layers of sound. Maybe you hear something very nearby and also something in the distance. And again, maybe that sound was reminding you of something. You can just notice what it brings up for you. Let's take one more breath now with this engagement with our sense of hearing. So now you can keep your eyes closed or open them for this last moment, but let's move to our sense of touch. Feel how you're sitting right now. I asked you to notice your feet on the floor earlier. You can notice what parts of your body are making contact with the chair. Maybe you have different sensations with your clothing. Perhaps you're starting to feel a little warm. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to make one change with how you're sitting. And that could be as simple as crossing or uncrossing your legs, wiggling your fingertips. It does not have to be a dramatic change. So let's do that now. Change one thing about your positioning. And now let's just absorb that change. We're going to take 2 or 3 more full breaths, feeling that shift in the body. Okay, and if your eyes are still closed, let's gently let them open up. Thank you all for trying that with me. That's an example of something we might do at Garrett Space. And now that you're all centered and present and here, I'm going to pass this on to Scott. Is that right?
Thank you, Marley. So again, I'm Scott Halpert, and here with Julie Halpert, and we are the co-founders of Garrett Space. Today we're going to first talk about our family story, a little bit about our son Garrett. Then we'll discuss the current mental health crisis affecting young people in our country. and then how we've been helping young adults in our community for the past few years. And then we'll share our plans for our transformational residential center before we take questions. So in 2017, our amazing son Garrett, who had been working at a suicide prevention nonprofit in Northern Virginia, tragically took his own life at the age of 23. And overnight, our family's lives were just transformed by unbearable grief and unbearable regret, as you can imagine. We lost a remarkable young man who we know would have continued to make a difference for others in this world, and who Julie and I believe with all of our hearts, if he just made it past this very vulnerable time in his life, that he would have experienced the happiness that he really deserved. So Garrett was talented and multifaceted. He was smart and funny and athletic. He lived to be with others, very, very social. There was really very little he didn't do well. He was one of the top tennis players in the state of Michigan for his class. He was Washtenaw County Tennis Player of the Year 2 years in a row in high school. After he completed his last year of high school tennis, he came to his mom and me, and he said that he wanted to try out his hand at poetry slams. And Julie and I just looked at each other and smiled, because we had no idea that he was interested in poetry or that he wanted to perform it in front of others. But it turns out he was amazing at that as well. He made it to the finals of the local area high school poetry slam competition and performed just brilliantly in front of hundreds of people at the U of M Power Center. But more important than Garrett's accomplishments and his talents was the type of person he was. He was one of the kindest and most genuine people you will ever meet. After he passed away, we heard story after story from others about how he had come to their aid when they were being treated poorly by others, or he'd just been there for them to listen and lend his tremendous advice. Garrett meant everything to our family, and I'm certain that's no different than how all of you feel about your own children. Let me ask you to raise your hand if you know of a young person right now who is struggling with depression or anxiety. Yeah, so most of the people in this room. You can see just how this mental health crisis is affecting all of us. Right now, about half of young people in high school or young adults are dealing with depression or anxiety, and about 15%, just a terrifying number, are contemplating taking their own lives. So there are many different contributing factors to this crisis, as you would expect, including young people feeling lonely or inadequate, or like they just don't fit in. Relationship challenges, the daunting societal issues that we're all currently facing. Perhaps the most insidious of all, social media, where young people spend so much of their time and invariably end up comparing their own lives to the impossibly happy ones that their peers post about on a regular basis. Whatever the cause, it's clear this is just an incredibly difficult and complicated world for young people right now to navigate. When Garrett was at his lowest moments, he was seeing a therapist, but he clearly needed something more. And there were a few supplemental resources that made sense for him or that he was willing to try. The existing residential support options out there were limited and not well suited for Garrett. There was nothing available that really felt like it was what he needed or what he wanted. Long-term residential facilities that are out there are really to treat serious psychiatric disorders. They require stays of 6 months to a year, which can be extremely disruptive to a young person's life, and they're prohibitively expensive for the most part, in many cases costing hundreds of thousands of dollars, much more than the average family can afford. So we were at his graveside one day shortly after he passed away. We really had an epiphany about what we believe could have helped our son. We thought about how he lost perspective concerning his own challenges before he eventually lost hope. And we imagined a healing place where Garrett and other young adults could just have been immersed in a warm and supportive community with peers, other young adults going through similar challenges, and see and gain connections and feel comfortable sharing their own vulnerabilities and see that they weren't alone in their struggles. That was really important. For Garrett, he felt at certain points that his challenges were just too big, that really he had issues that couldn't be fixed. And we wanted to put him in an environment where he could regain that perspective and regain hope. And so out of this vision, our plans were born for our non-medically focused residential center. And we've made tremendous progress towards creation of our center, which Julie will talk about in a few minutes. But I first wanted to talk about what we've been doing for the past several years to prepare for the center, while at the same time making an immediate difference for our target population. So early on, we assembled an all-star team of mental health experts. We confirmed the beneficial impacts of the support and activities we'll be providing through a comprehensive literature review. We researched facilities across the country to identify best practices, and this process was led by an educational consultant whose full-time job it is to place young people in residential facilities across the country. And she volunteered to lead our effort because she saw the huge need for what we're doing, and she told us there's really nothing else out there like what we're creating. We also talked to many parents going with struggling young adults to better understand the need and what that population is going through. And most importantly, while we've been working to achieve our vision of our center, we've been simultaneously been providing wellness programming for the past 3.5 years. And we have put together just an incredible team of caring and compassionate facilitators, and we're really proud of how we've been able to help young adults in our community to this point. So now I'm going to turn things over to Julie to talk about our programming and in more depth in our planned center.
So the Garrett Space Wellness Program is a suicide prevention program for young adults ages 18 to 28 living with depression, anxiety, or suicidal ideation. And we're working to promote health, hope, healing, and connection. Adulting is hard, and when you're isolated on your own with mental health struggles, it's even harder. Groups are offered 3 days a week, currently meeting virtually for support, skill building, movement, and connection. And we also offer monthly in-person gatherings for participants for activities like nature walks, visits to the DIA, and bowling. The support groups are free to participants, thanks to a generous donor. The groups are open-ended and ongoing, and additional groups and activities will be added in the future as our new property becomes available for our participants for in-person programming. All of our groups are run by professional co-facilitators. We always have one licensed social worker present. And our groups begin with a mood and mental health check-in, asking what's going on, what's on your mind. And the group includes activities to teach and practice coping strategies. Sorry, I should have a podium here. And then, the feedback has been really exceptional. We're really making a difference in these young people's lives. Our participants are finding a comfortable space to be themselves and discuss their challenges in a judgment-free zone with love and support, and they are really rallying around each other. The in-person gatherings have helped further cement the bonds of friendship and trust of our participants, which bodes extremely well for our in-person plans. Our survey results confirm that our groups are benefiting our participants just as we had hoped and planned. Now we'd like to show you a video of one of our participant alums who spoke at our recent fundraiser about her experience with our wellness program.
Thank you so much, Scott and Julie.
Can you raise up?
That was really beautiful. And as they said, hello, my name is Alondra, and I was a member of Garrett Space for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years before aging out, and now I'm a current alumni as of this June. I have had mental health challenges since I was a child, and I have seen a counselor, on and off throughout most of my life. And I also, more recently, have been able to find some of the most supportive support that I found along that journey, including finding mental health groups. And when I came to Garrett Space about a year and a half or so, I came in an extra distressing time in my life. I actually found it through a funny avenue. I was looking for places to volunteer because I'd heard about how helping others can help you feel better. So I found it through a volunteer page, and at that time I thought, well, I need this too. So I was really, really grateful to be able to reach out in that time of distress. There's something I've learned as well, that in times of distress, there is always a need for more support. And something that I've learned is there can never be too much support either. And something that I think Garrett Space provides for the community is a space within a deficit. Often people might have a counselor one day a week, or if they need some more support, go to inpatient in a hospital. But what do we have for in between that? Sometimes the support in a hospital might not even be exactly what you need, but just having a community of people that surround you, that's not just from 5 to 6 on Monday when you're seeing a counselor, that you know are going to be there for you, is one of the most helpful things that I found through Garrett Space. And something else that was interesting for me and really I think beneficial about Garrett Space was I had actually found and had another mental health group before I came here. But my other mental health group was very small and had members that were about 50 years old to 60 years old or older, and I was the youngest member. So finding something like Garrett Space was a completely different experience, to be able to have a mental health group with other people my age. And I found such a great benefit from this, from being around other people that are at a similar stage in life, because not only can it be very validating, like they're going through the exact same things as you, they can also have insights into experiences that you're currently going through that they may have already gone through. And being able to hear the wisdom from other people that they've just gone through it or are going through it now was an extremely validating experience. And that was something that my other mental health group, though wonderful, hadn't been able to provide. And Garrett Space also has a larger amount of people and a real feeling of community, which I think is so crucial to care when struggling with mental health issues. Knowing that there's a whole group of people there for you whenever you need makes you feel that you're not alone. And beforehand, I would often feel very alone. That's why I think that Garrett Space also helps to reduce stigma so much. It's nice knowing that you have a counselor to talk to each week, but they might not always be available. But Garrett Space had facilitators that you could reach out to when you needed, and a group chat for participants, as well as fun outings for participants to go to monthly to facilitate a sense of community. It was not just about one day that people were there for you. There was a sense there was a safety net, and they were there for you all the time. And I think that people that are, especially young people struggling with mental health, might not always have that safety net. They might not have a large group of friends. They might have been hurt by people in their lives. They might not even have parents or other people that are able to support them. So having Garrett Space provide a sense of community of people that could be like parents or friends, knowing that you have people there for you, I think helps you so much to move forward or even just be present with what you're dealing with. Another thing that was interesting specifically for me being a part of Garrett Space was that despite being in a group with peers around the same age, being a benefit to me now, when I first joined Garrett Space, this is actually one of my top anxieties. As one of my struggles in the past was unfortunately experiencing quite a bit of peer rejection and bullying when I was younger. So I had actually an extra anxiety about being vulnerable and sharing with groups of people my age, since this was literally one of my triggers. So coming into Garrett Space, I was quite nervous in the beginning, but what was really healing about this experience was that this group of people are the complete opposite of judgmental. Being around Garrett Space peers and facilitators made me feel loved, understood, respected, and accepted. And that really helped me in a completely different way than my other group had been. This helped me to start to believe that people my age could be safe again. And so I'm very thankful to have been in such an accepting community that was able to show me that. So Garrett Space had that extra level of benefit for me. I want to thank Julie and Scott for taking their wound and transforming it into something beautiful like Garrett Space. I want to thank the facilitators and all other people involved in Garrett Space for being so devoted to helping young people in need. I want to thank all of the donors and all of the people that support this. I wish we had places like Garrett Space in every city, every community, every town, everywhere. And so I am just so grateful that we have a specific place like this that hopefully will be developed for young people. And I also want to thank my fellow group members for their love, for taking care of themselves, and for their continued bravery. And I'd like to finish by saying that per the fact that I have anxiety, I had a lot of anxiety preparing for and giving this speech tonight. But something that I've often heard said in my mental health groups and among other peers that struggle with mental health issues is despite anxiety, despite depression, despite whatever you're going through, please continue to engage in the world. If you had a hard time getting out of bed today, but you were just able to get out of the house and take a walk around the block, that is wonderful. Or whether you were afraid of reaching out for support and did it anyway, good job. Or if you were afraid of getting up on stage and giving a speech, don't let fear get in the way. At least that's what I try to do. Feel the fear and do it anyway. And I know that a lot of you out there might also be struggling with things right now, but I encourage you, do not stop trying to engage with the world. Keep fighting, keep putting yourself out there, and do not give up. Thank you.
We expect to have 15 to 20 young adults, ages 18 to 28, for overnight stays up to 30 days, and 10 more for in-person programming. Activities will include peer support, yoga, nutritious cooking, gardening, music, exercise, and other outdoor activities. Our focus really will be on building support, connections, coping skills, and healing activities, and giving young adults the opportunity to support each other and see that there are others their age going through similar challenges, and that they can push through these challenges and heal. This will be a non-medical wraparound support model. They're going to continue to see their mental health professional, their therapist or prescriber, through telehealth at the center. Our center will really be an opportunity for struggling young adults to hit the reset button by giving them a reprieve from their feelings of inadequacy and loneliness, and will work to improve their resiliency and help put their challenges into perspective. We've raised approximately $8.6 million, which is well over 60% of our campaign goal of $13.5 million. We're creating a desperately needed community resource that will be here for all of you and your children and grandchildren. And we also know that one Garrett Space residential center won't be enough to filling the huge need in our country right now for additional resources. So we'll be creating a model that can be replicated across the country and for different age groups. I'm hoping maybe even across the world. And here's how you can learn about Garrett Space. You can go to our website or reach out to Scott or Peggy Gallimberti, our clinical director. If you're interested in helping, you might be thinking, how can I help? Oh, there's lots of ways you can help. We're also always interested in volunteers, and you could even hold a small event where people get to know about Garrett Space. We can always use your financial support, and if you know people who have resources and an affinity for our mission, it would be wonderful if you could connect us. And we also have some handouts, including about our wellness program, also how you can support young adults who are struggling, signs to look for, that was developed by our Peggy Gallimberti. And if you want to get on our mailing list, you can reach out to Sarah, come up and reach out to Sarah. And now we've done enough talking, so we're happy to answer any questions that you have. Yeah, Clinch. He doesn't need a mic.
No, we do. No, actually, we do. We do for the live stream. I'm sorry, we do. Thanks, Clint.
Oh, yeah. Thank you guys for being here. Really, thank you. Observation and then a question. Julie and Scott, you guys seem like to have the perfect family. And for me, it hits home like, how can something like this happen? There's so many perfect families. And I think it's really important to embrace the fact and acknowledge that everybody has got something going on. There's no such thing as a perfect family. So thank you for doing what you have done. So Walt Disney said, if you can dream it, you can do it. You guys had the worst nightmare possible, and you haven't woken up. But what I really admire and applaud is that you're doing something about it. And thank you for showing us ways that we can be engaged. My question is, there is a stigma about mental health, and I know you guys have fought it, even in securing the property that you have. How can we, as a community, help to combat this stigma associated with mental health as a non-acceptable medical condition? Do you have any thoughts or any ideas on that?
Well, we don't pretend to be mental health experts, and Marley, I don't know if you want to weigh in on that. You want to weigh? Why don't you go ahead? Sure.
I also don't actually claim to be a mental health expert. I just want to say that. I have a lot of experience, but that's actually not like my education. I moved into this role because of my skill set in the fields of movement, but also in sort of facilitation and group building. I've done a lot of educational work. And I hope this doesn't sound like an overly simple answer, but one of the things that has been really helpful for me that I've learned in my work in these groups, and I just have to shout out Peggy Gallimberti because I work closely with her. She's our clinical director and she's brilliant. We don't try to solve their problems. We just let them feel validated in their experience. And I think that one-on-one conversations with people that are maybe struggling, or maybe with people who have other people in their lives who are struggling, I actually think that's the biggest tool. And when I say conversations, I said this to Jane earlier, it's not so much like, how can I fix what's happening with you? It's being really present for the listening. And so often, a lot of what I say in group is, that sounds really hard. That sounds like it hurts. And they are so responsive to just having someone be 100% present for the challenge that they're going through and not try to mend or fix or shift, but be there for it. And I think that I am not a parent, but I just want to speak to the fact that I think maybe if your child is struggling, it's probably incredibly challenging to not want to fix it. And perhaps a solution or some solutions present themselves throughout conversation, but I really think the initial step is just like being really present and really willing to hear what someone's going through, even if it's hard to hear and even if you don't understand it. I hope that's...
I would just add that it's talk about it. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of, I don't know, you might correct me if I'm wrong, there's a lot of people feel shame and feel they don't want to talk about it. You talk about the perfect family. A lot of people don't want to talk about their kids' struggles. I think we should talk about our kids' struggles if they feel comfortable. You should talk about it with each other, and you should tell everybody that it's okay to talk about this stuff, that it's not anything to be ashamed about, that lots of people have these struggles. And that shame is really, it fuels the growth of stigma. So.
I'm Collier. I've been talking to quite a few people, and I asked the question, when you were in school and you learned math, English, PE, did you learn coping and resiliency? And no one has been able to say yes. And I'm just wondering, a lot of times as mental health organizations, we're in silos. And I'm wondering if you are going to the schools and helping them understand about coping and resilience.
So our target population is really 18 to 28, but we have been very much trying to form partnerships with the local colleges. We've been reaching out to the people in the Greek system at U of M to tell them about what we're doing, WCC, EMU, but we ourselves are not doing that kind of education, but we hope somebody will. I mean, it's really important for sure. It's also a much harder world than when we grew up. I'm sure some people struggle then, but the struggles are so much worse now. So you're right, it's true.
How did you select that age grouping?
Yeah.
Was it arbitrary? You had data that told you?
No, it's actually not arbitrary at all. We like to think that nothing we do is arbitrary. Well, there's been a lot of support for kids up until 18. First of all, they're not minors. They're often living with their parents. They're in a school system. 18 to 28 is a really difficult time of life. It's a time of transition. You, first of all, you're not a minor, so you might be seeing a therapist, and your parents, don't have access to that's going on. You might be in a toxic relationship. You might be living by yourself. You might feel very alone for the first time. It's a time of transition between high school and college to the real world, if you went to college at all. And there are all kinds of unique struggles during this age group. It's very underserved. And we know that because we get calls all the time in communication saying, my young adult is struggling severely. When are you going to be open? Or what can I tell my young adults? Or I've lost a young adult. Again, I'm a journalist. I wrote this piece for the New York Times about how do you move forward in the face of a suicide. And I'm still, 4 years later, getting calls from parents, being connected to people who are facing this. It's just a really unique and hard time for this population, and we feel they're terribly underserved. So that's why we picked that age group. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
The article that you wrote from New York Times.
Oh, yeah. I'm happy to send that.
Repeat question.
How can we get a copy of the article I wrote for the New York Times? I'm happy to send it. It has a lot of resources on how to cope with this. So.
can connect it. We can connect it to the YouTube video. So if you, again, YouTube, First Pres, this talk.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to add that, it's really important for our participants to be with others their age. So we selected the 18 to 28 group. But we do believe that what we're doing would be helpful to other age groups as well. And that's why we're creating this model that we're creating. Yeah.
I want to talk with you personally, but I just thought I'd say it to the group. I want to work with you people. And last week's talk really inspired me. I have notes in my car. I've been kind of on fire all week. And I had this notion that, we keep talking about, how kids are so attracted to everything online and AI and blah, blah, all that. And I thought, how about innate technology, and there's so many gifts that we have just being human beings that never get presented to us. And I think I have some skills that could help that. And so I will.
Do you have to be a resident of Washtenaw County? What population or geographically are you reaching household?
Yeah, so that's going to... Oh, so the question was, do you have to be a resident of Washtenaw County, and what's the geographic area that we're serving? So we have been serving young adults within a 50-mile radius of Ann Arbor to this point. That will change over time as we open up our center. Eventually, this will be a nationally available center.
So I think we're officially supposed to stop at 11:30 and then open it to questions and answers. So I'm just going to use this marker. If some people are leaving, just to say if you have to leave, please do. But will you stay for another couple of minutes to more? Okay. So as long as you're going to stay, I'm just going to do this little thank you, very little symbolic thank you of the light that you are putting into the world from the Adult Faith Formation Committee. And let's have a round of applause, and then we'll open again for questions. So, more questions? Oh.
Well, this is a kind of a question. I was looking at your video of the space, and I noticed there was not a television there or technology. And is that purposeful?
Yeah, well, so it's too early to know what we're going to do with technology at this point. We're in the midst of planning what we're going to have, the types of activities, and whether our young people will have devices and to what extent they'll be able to access their devices. Those are all things that we're going to spend time considering over the next couple of years. The center? Yeah, so the center, we are planning to have our buildings completed in the beginning of 2026, not too far off, and then we'll operate it for day programming for a year or so, and then we'll open it up as a residence in the beginning of 2027.
So I just wanted to add, Scott had mentioned the search we're doing. We interviewed executive directors of facilities that were similar to ours. The short stay model is not really done, but to get a sense of best practices so this can be informed as a model. And they were all over the map with technology. Some said no technology at all. Some said, we don't want to cut them off from their social ties. Some had limits on technology. And we just feel like we have a lot of work to do to figure out what the best mix is. It's really not an easy question, especially with young adults. They have agency. They're going to be coming here voluntarily. So it's tricky. It's a tricky question, and we need to dive deeper. So it's a really good question.
And there actually were some places we talked to that started with not having any devices, and they had to change. Basically, they realized that wasn't helpful to their population. So it's difficult. We'll have to spend some time thinking about it. Yes.
It seems like one of the answers to that might be to teach them how to use the technology. Technology is just how we're functioning. Some of us are using it wisely, and many of us are not. So I think that could be part of a skill set formation that we all need, not just the people in Garrett's place. But that's just my thought. So.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that when I was first very fortunate to be brought into the conversations before any of our programming started, we were thinking we would do this in person. And then there was a pandemic. And so groups started virtually, but I feel like it's worth, one of my go-to lines is that everything can be a weapon or a tool, depends on how you use it. And in this case, the fact that we could meet virtually was kind of everything, because I obviously I don't know this for a fact, but there's a lot of current participants that I'm not sure we would have ever seen if they had to come someplace in person, because being around other people and out in the world was really challenging for them, but they could open up their computer and be alone in their room and then talk to their peers. So I think it's important to recognize, at least for me, I was very humbled by learning that, because I was like, oh, not in person, this isn't going to be. But then I now really stand by how we've been doing these virtual groups and feel like we've brought in a lot of people into the fold that maybe we wouldn't have found before. So just lots of questions and lots to learn.
And I would just add to that before we take your question, is that we are thinking about continuing a hybrid model, so we'll also have virtual groups going forward even after the center is complete.
I'm also trying to figure out how to hold this microphone so it doesn't make this, but maybe like that.
Thank you for doing this. My question is, the kids, like the speaker, the young girl, she kind of knows she wants help. She say, she may not have a problem. When you think you need help, that's a very good beginning, right? But a lot of kids that probably don't. They are angry, they blame other people. How do you help those kids?
So that is a great question, and it's a common situation. And that was a situation, I think, when you're really, really at your all-time low, you feel very defeated, right? And the whole purpose of creating what we're creating is to make it appealing to young adults. Our son really wanted to go to a retreat center, a meditation center, but there was nothing out there that was designed to helping him. And we feel like, this place, for example, a lot of people, when young adults are struggling and they're on the brink of suicide, it's go to the ER. And when you're struggling with a substance abuse problem, people don't say go to the ER, right? Obviously, if you're actively suicidal, that's where you should be. But we feel like we're creating a place that we hope will be really appealing to young adults. Now, not every single person, but we feel like this model that we're creating will be welcoming and warm and non-stigmatizing and non-medical and non-traumatizing. And that will maybe encourage that person who otherwise might not have wanted to get help. I don't know if you want to do it.
I don't have an answer to that either, but I'm thinking about specific participants, which is why I was compelled to say something. There is a certain amount of autonomy. They have to show up, which, to your point, I think is also an empowering thing, because they're making a choice on their own, and feeling empowered about your choices is something that some of these folks really notably lack in their life. But I will also say there's a few people in particular that are in my mind that I know were resistant, and showing up somewhere, my perception of part of their resistance was that they felt like they had to be a certain way in that space. And really, again, shout out to Peggy, I really feel like our facilitation group has cultivated a way of being that we're very accepting of wherever someone is when they show up. And the transition between the sort of having a guard up and then realizing that you can exist exactly how you are in this space and that it's enough, it's magical. We had people that you could tell did not want to share anything, and then just sort of observed how other people were being, and that nobody was passing judgment on anyone else, and everybody, and night and day. I mean, really big. So I think that there is again, it maybe sounds a little bit overly simple, but I think actually creating a space where you are accepted exactly how you show up is monumental. And honestly, I don't really feel like I've been in many spaces that have successfully achieved that, but I believe our groups really have.
I would just add that none of what we're doing could really work without having just an amazing, caring group of facilitators like Marley. I mean, that's really the key. So, yes.
I was just going to comment. I hope that maybe your reach out to schools would encourage students or people who, where there's a guidance counselor, whoever, who can recommend your facility and say, maybe this is a place for you. I mean, maybe there's some encouragement there that would get more people aware of your facility and the services.
Yeah, I'll just say to that, you know, we've been increasing our capacity to accept participants at a steady rate, and so we've been deliberate, intentional about who we've been talking to, but we have been specifically focusing on referral sources, colleges in the area. I do see us eventually reaching out to high schools as well, and just everywhere, because you know, this is just a huge need. Yeah.
Okay, this is branching out more, which I know you don't want to do right now, but I used to work in an OBGYN office, and one of the things that we had up was information on Safe House in various spots. So I can see how this would be in doctor's offices, just like Safe House is, so that a mom is in there fixing her hair, going to the bathroom, and she sees this. Oh, some help for my child.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Absolutely, definitely.
I think I'll use this as an opportunity to thank all of you. What a blessing you are. It just can't be, you're going to be like a lighthouse. Your son's is going to be a lighthouse and beam out, and who knows how much light's going to come to the world. I don't know about you, but I just feel lucky to be living in this community with you while you're doing this. So thank you, and we're going to ask you for your slides, if you could share them with Bill so that we can maybe remedy the sound problem here a little bit. But again, please spread the word by spreading the video, and also the video that the talk last week was Emily Billick, who's a psychiatric clinical person from the hospital, did a wonderful session on social media. And I will tell you, we have a session coming up with 2 other specialists working on social media in our lives coming up this winter. So stay tuned, and thank you. Thank you again.